Chapter 19. The Storm. Corrine breathed in the fall smell that was coming from the kitchen. It made her stomach turn and her eyes water. She put one hand over her nose and rushed inside. The windows had all been shut, and Severine stood in the shadows watching Pierre eat. Corrine knocked the bowl off the table and pulled the spoon away from her father. "Papa, don't eat that," she said. Her father did not respond. Severine stepped into a shaft of light. "Where have you been?" she asked with a smirk. "I made lunch for us." She held out another bowl to Corrine. Corrine slapped it out of her hand. Severine's eyes narrowed, but her lips curled into a cruel arch. "Papa!" Corrine called. She touched her father's hand. He looked up at her, but he didn't seem to recognize her. "Papa?" Tears covered her face as she shook him, called to him, and tried to make him answer her. "Why don't you have some stew?" Severine asked. She picked up the bowl from the ground and ladled in some more of the foul-smelling slop. "Get out of my house!" Corrine screamed. "Your house?" "Yes, my house." She pulled aside curtains from the kitchen window and pushed the window open to let out the smell. Light streamed in and fell directly on Pierre's face, but he didn't even blink. The magic that Severine had put in his eyes blinded him to anything but the vision she had created. Severine walked in a circle around the table. Corrine backed away, trying to keep the table between them. In the sunlight, Severine's body seemed different. She looked thinner and a bit hairy. "Papa? Please help!" "Oh, Papa, help!" Severine mocked. "He can't see you. He can only see the darkness and a wild storm outside. The storm is so terrible I'm afraid it could kill you, which is what I will tell him happened to you if you don't behave yourself. Better to have him think you were killed by a storm instead of me, don't you think?" Severine laughed. "He can't help you at all, so who will protect you now?" Corrine backed away more. She felt the fear rush through her body, making every movement feel clumsy. A whimper escaped her throat. Severine stepped closer. "Stop that ridiculous whining." Corrine felt anger flare up inside her and temporarily held the fear in check. She threw Severine a heated stare. Severine pushed the bowl of stew towards Corrine. Corrine jerked away, causing Severine to slop stew onto the floor. Severine grabbed Corrine's wrist and shoved her to the ground, right into the foul-smelling stew. "You can't resist me!" Severine shrieked. The stew felt like it was burning into Corrine's skin. She got up quickly. "Leave us alone!" she screamed as she wiped herself off. When Corrine looked up, she saw that Severine's face had narrowed. Her nose and mouth protruded slightly like an animal's, and her arms looked as brittle and thin as sticks. "Are you going to make me leave?" Severine asked, straight into Corrine's face. Corrine wanted to fight, but found herself stepping back yet again. She moved into a sliver of light, and the sun caught on the stone pendant around her neck. Severine stared at the necklace, and her mouth slackened as if surprised. In the moment of hesitation, Corrine saw her chance. She threw her body at Severine, hoping to knock her down. But Severine only staggered back against the stove and grabbed hold of the stew pot. "You can't stop me," she said, and threw the hot stew on Corrine. Corrine's skin burned. She ran outside to the back of the house. She threw a bucket of rainwater over her head. The magic still felt like flames. She ran down the hill to the sea and dove into the waves. The water rolled and tumbled her against the grainy bottom. It burned the gash on her leg, but at last the rest of her skin began to cool. She floated on the waves, letting them move her back and forth a few feet from shore until the burning stopped. She saw her house up on the hill, and Severine standing at the kitchen door with a look of satisfaction. For a moment, Corrine thought she saw Severine's eyes flash yellow again. Severine was in Corrine's house. She had Corrine's father. Corrine called to her grandpierre in the ocean and her mamma in heaven for help, but there was no answer. Only the sounds of the waves as they broke against the sand, saying, "Hush, hush, hush."